Another big show today as we inch towards January 4th. We'll talk about the Ocha Norma collab, the Malaysia show, which was finally uploaded to Wrestle Universe, and the Book Cafe show, which I finally watched it and it doesn't disappoint. We also have to chat about Moka Miyamoto's sudden retirement and preview the Bangkok show. Oh, and a very happy birthday to Himawari and Kira Summer. All that and more coming up on the Tokyo Joshi Pod. Stay tuned. Hello to all you big children out there. Konnichiwa! And welcome to the Tokyo Joshi Pod, your weekly dose of everything TJPW. I'm your host, Andy Zyke, and we are so close to the holidays, it's insane. Christmas is only 2 weeks away now, and if you celebrate Hanukkah, that starts even sooner. That's on Monday, even closer. I hope you're all excited for the holidays. I wish you all safe travels. If you're heading anywhere, hopefully you're going to be spending this time with your family, with your friends, whoever is close to you. It's such a lovely time of year. It's also a huge time for wrestling and Japanese wrestling in particular. We have a lot to dive into today. Picture Book Reading Pro Wrestling and Love and Peace were both uploaded to Wrestle Universe last week. We won't do a full recap of each of those since we already spoke about the results on previous shows, but I do want to give some thoughts on them now that we've had a chance to watch them. The OchaPro Korakuen show also took place last week, so we'll review that. And we have the Bangkok show coming up this weekend to talk about as well. The next couple of weeks going to be probably a little bit trickier. I'm going to be traveling myself next week for the holidays, and then we have Christmas and then New Year's following that. This year, Christmas and New Year's are both on a Thursday, which is typically the day that I record this show. I do want to say that episodes will still release each Friday as we proceed through the holidays, but they might be a little bit shorter than usual. The audio might sound a little bit different while I'm away from my usual setup, so just bear with me as we go through the holidays. But I do want to keep creating the shows because we are in peak Japanese wrestling season, and I wouldn't miss talking about any of these shows with you guys. I am so excited for this January 4th show with TJPW that's coming up. That's going to be an absolutely killer show. All of the talent announcements, the matches that have been announced. We really truly only know about half of the card already too, so there's so much more to come between now and the end of the year and the next couple of weeks. I really can't wait. We'll have a big preview of that show coming up, hopefully with the guys from Talk Joshi, Andy Header and Matt Turner. Been chatting a little bit with them. We're going to try to make that work in the coming weeks. Obviously, with travel schedules and holidays, card is subject to change, as Matt Turner always likes to say, but going to try to make that work, so keep your eyes peeled for that show. Let's kick things off today talking about the news, and I'm going to lead with probably the biggest news we've gotten in quite some time. We have heard from TJPW. They've announced that Moka Miyamoto will be retiring. This is effective immediately, and TJPW stressed that this was Moka's decision. Within the press release that was put out, I want to quote these words directly here. TJPW mentioned that Moka had reached out and requested to, quote, put an end to her career as a professional wrestler and pursue a new path. The press release also goes on to say that Moka has personally requested that there is no retirement ceremony, so this is just effective immediately. We will not see Moka appear on any more TJPW shows. There will be no send-off, retirement matches, or any sort of graduation events or celebrations or anything like that, so this is effective immediately. And there is also a statement that was included in this press release from Moka Miyamoto, and I'd like to just read that verbatim, just so I say verbatim, but this, of course, is translated from Japanese, so there may be a little bit of disparity in what was written here, but as verbatim as we can, I'd like to just read this just to share Moka's exact words. Quote, "It's been a while. This is Moka Miyamoto. I have decided to retire from my activities as a professional wrestler. During my absence, taking time to reflect on myself led me to consider my future path, and I have chosen to draw a line under this chapter in this manner. I have been able to continue this far Thanks to everyone who has warmly supported me. Thank you so very much. The days spent with Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling and the many encounters I had there are cherished memories for me. I will now walk a new path, but I will never forget the support I have received until now. Thank you all so very much for everything. Moka debuted with TJPW in July of 2020 during the COVID pandemic. She did spend all 5 of her career years in TJPW. She did sporadically appear in DDT and Noah. She actually wrestled in America quite a bit too. There's a couple of different indie promotions that she made some American appearances for, so that was kind of neat. She will end her professional wrestling career as a one-time International Princess Champion, winning that in what has now become her final match at Summer Sun Princess of 2025. She also wrestled in the Tokyo Princess Cup and the Max Heart tournament basically every single year of her career, which is quite an achievement as well. Within the Max Heart tournament specifically, she did make it to the semifinals a couple of times, but did not win either of those tournaments. She does finish her career with a singles match record of 30 wins, 65 losses, and 1 tie, which is good for a 31% winning percentage. I'm not going to speculate on what may or may not be affecting Moka, just out of respect for her privacy and her personal business, but I do want to just comment here on the retirement. This isn't very shocking to me. It has been about 6 months since we've heard anything regarding Moka, anything from Moka herself. We have had a lengthy period of radio silence, so while I'm not shocked by this news, it is a bit surprising to hear. I think myself, like a lot of you out there, probably thought, hey, we'll see Moka maybe on January 4th, maybe at Grand Princess, at Ryogoku Kokugikon or something. So it is sad that her career ends so abruptly, especially considering that Moka was having one heck of a year this year in 2025, really even the end of 2024, coming into 2025, winning that International Princess title at Summer Sun Princess this year. I think she was likely on tap for some big things within TJPW. At the end of the day, the bottom line here, I hope that Moka is healthy. I hope that she is well, and I hope that she is happy with this decision. It sounds like this was made completely on her own thoughts, her own decisions here. So at the end of the day, whatever makes her happy is what's most important. I wish her well. She was lovely to watch in the ring, and all the best to Moka with whatever she lands in the future. I do hope we see her again one day, even if it is just as an audience member or, what have you, just pops up somewhere. But all the best to Moka Miyamoto on a wonderful 5-year career with TJPW. We do have some other news, much smaller in significance compared to the Moka news, but I do want to touch upon some other things that came out this past week. The upcoming Sei no Merry Christmas to 5 show had a couple of announcements tied to it recently. This show will be taking place on Sunday, December 21st, so just in about 10 days or so here. This will be from the Tokyo Tama Mirai Messi in Tokyo, Japan. We know the card, or at least the construct of the card. The main event will be a 6-woman tag match. Miyu Watanabe will team with Ober Eats, and they will take on Suzume and Prism Greed. Prism Greed being Yuki Aino and Haru Kazushiro. So this will be our kind of ultimate preview, final preview match for our major title matches for that January 4th Korakuen show. The rest of this card will be filled with 9 singles matches. Each will have a 7-minute time limit. And essentially what they're doing here, these head-to-head singles matches will be decided by a lottery. And that lottery is going to be streamed on YouTube on Tuesday the 16th. So this coming Tuesday on the TJPW YouTube, they're going to stream this lottery. They have a special guest. I think it is a former idol or an idol from SKE48 is going to be helping draw the names for these matchups. The other news that came out, or the other note I should say about this Merry Christmas show, is that Himawari is unfortunately going to be absent. There is a scheduling conflict. I wonder if that means she has a stage performance or something like that, but Himawari will unfortunately miss the Christmas show on the 21st. And as we gear up for that January 4th show, TJPW 26, we have yet another talent announcement for that show. Yuna Manase has been announced. Yuna Manase will join an absolutely stacked roster that will include Aja Kong, Max the Impaler, Yuka Sakazaki, and J-Rod. That, of course, is on top of the entire TJPW roster as well. We do have 5 matches that have been announced for this: the rookie debut tag team match, the annual Hyper Misao and Shoko Nakajima match, and then, of course, our 3 title matches: one for the International Princess Championship, Mirai challenging Arisu; the Princess Tag titles, Prism Greed challenging Uber Eats; and then the main event, the Princess of Princess title, Suzume challenging Miyu Watanabe. In addition to this TJPW2 6 show, the second show of 2026 will be TJPW New Year Party, which is on January 10th, so just a few short days after this major Korakuen show. And TJPW has announced that Ryu Mizunami will be appearing on that January 10th show. So the hits keep on coming. This January 4th show is going to be absolutely loaded. I can't wait for that. I can't wait to preview that and talk about that and watch it. This is shaping up to be one of the best January 4th shows from TJPW, truly of all time. And then we'll segue that right into this January 10th New Year's Party show where we'll have Aniki appear. Then we segue into the Max Heart tournament. And then before we know it, we are back at Ryogoku Kokugikan for Grand Princess 2-6, which we know will contain Yuka Sakazaki, Lei Ying Lee, and Sari. And that's on top. That's so far out. There's still so many matches and announcements for that major show. The start of the year, the first 3 months for TJPW are going to be an absolutely incredible ride, and I'm really, really excited to jump on that roller coaster with all of you. A few other minor things I want to touch on in our news section here. You know, from time to time, I like to mention what TJPW is doing on YouTube. Well, of late, TJPW has been posting a lot of vlogs on their YouTube. Personally, I love watching YouTube vlogs, whether that's for like theme parks or travel or really anything. I really enjoy watching YouTube vlogs. So to see TJPW posting these vlogs is actually right up my alley. Hopefully you guys can enjoy these as well. It's basically a nice little look into the lives of the wrestlers, like who they are behind the scenes, if you will, or outside of the ring, I guess is a better metaphor. There was one that contained Yuki Arai and Shino Suzuki taking a trip to Korea, and they kind of vlogged all of the food that they ate in Korea. There was one focusing on Miyu Yamashita and what she does on her day off, where she went for like some skin treatment and some workouts and some meetings at the TJPW offices. And then the most recent one, the Up Up Girls, Miyu Watanabe and Uda Takami, did a brief vlog at like a night market while they were in Malaysia, eating a couple of different foods. So just a fun little kind of peek behind the curtain. Each of these are really no more than 10 minutes. They are in Japanese, so you have to either use the subtitles or the translation function, but they're quite an enjoyable watch, so I encourage you all to go and check them out on the TJPW YouTube channel. And then just to put a bow on our news of the week, we have 2 birthdays to celebrate. Next Thursday, December 18th, Himawari will be celebrating her 28th birthday, and Kira Summer will be celebrating her 29th birthday. So a huge happy birthday to both Himawari and Kira Summer. Wish them all well. I have not heard anything about some sort of like a stream. Recently, TJPW has been doing birthday streams, but the end of the year is also always very jam-packed, as we've seen, especially with the holidays. So we'll see if there's any sort of announcement there. But regardless, a very happy birthday to Himawari and Kira Summer. Now, we had a pretty big show take place this week, the pay-per-view, the OchaPro Korakuen pay-per-view. But before we dive into discussing what went down on that show, there were 2 older shows that were, I say older, they're really only about like a month old, but there were 2 previous shows, how about we go with that? There were 2 previous shows, Picture Book Reading Pro Wrestling and Good Life Presents Love and Peace, where the VODs were uploaded, the video on demand were uploaded to Wrestle Universe. So I know we spoke about the results of these and kind of covered them in light detail, but I did get a chance to watch both of these, so I just want to share some brief thoughts on both of them. To jog your memory, if you've forgotten, although I don't know how you could, the Picture Book Reading Pro Wrestling show took place on Saturday, November 8th. This was the show that emanated from the Bookhouse Cafe in Tokyo. The VOD for this was just uploaded on Thursday, the 4th of December. This is only about an hour long. This venue looked really cool. I did a little bit of research about the venue. It seems to be primarily like a children's bookstore. There's a lot of just children's books, or maybe like solely children's books here. But there was also a cafe and like a secret bar or something like that. So it seems like it's more of like a family establishment or meant for kids, families with younger kids. But it kind of seems like a neat little place to check out if you're ever in Tokyo and you like bookstores. I like bookstores, but I don't know if it would be appropriate to go to this children's bookstore. Anyway, I digress. There were 64 people in attendance for this, and I have to admit, watching it on the Wrestle Universe VOD, probably a few more like solo men that were there than I thought might be there. But at the end of the day, I suppose if I was in Tokyo, I'd probably go to this show, and so might be me. So no judgments here. But this event had 6 women take turns reading picture books. There were some kids that gathered around and listened to the stories. Of note, Miyu Watanabe had a book that was like literally the size of her torso. It was kind of crazy. And then towards the end of this, there was about like a 20-minute match or so, I would say. It was a 6 woman tag. Miyu Watanabe, Raku, and Pam Harajuku took on Rika Tatsumi and the team of Daisy Monkey, Suzume and Arisu Endo. In the write up for this, they said that they put mats down in the middle of the bookstore. There was literally one mat. It was about as thin as possible in the middle of the bookstore. And these women bumped exceptionally hard given the circumstances and the venue. They were really, really laying it in, and they were landing some pretty hard maneuvers on this tiny, tiny mat. So kudos to all 6 of these women. Also, shout out to Chika Nanase, who had the impossible task of being the only second for this match. So she was just bopping all around this bookstore, trying to control the people and the wrestlers and the books and just kind of make sure everything was in order. Truly, truly doing the Lord's work. They made really creative use of this bookstore. They were truly all over it, utilizing the books and the cafe and the benches that were there. It was a lot of fun to see them just get creative in the space. At one point, Miyu had a Canadian backbreaker on Suzume, and she was holding Suzume with one arm over her shoulder, and then holding a picture book in front of Suzume's face. There's a really funny picture of that online, but just incredibly impressive feat of strength. We had spoken about Rika ordering hot chocolate when we last talked about this, and that was true. She went to the cafe and she ordered very hot chocolate. And then she ended up drinking it on her way out of the bookstore, so that was kind of funny. Rika did win this match for her team with a missile hip from, they said the sofa. It was actually from the back of the sofa, like where your backrest would be. She jumped off like the highest part of the sofa, so some impressive work from really all 6 of these women. This for me was a complete 10 out of 10, 2 thumbs up. It was everything I was hoping would be. It was everything I was hoping it would be, everything I wanted it to be, and this comes highly recommended. Go on Wrestle Universe and check this one out. It's only an hour and you're going to have a blast. Even if you skip through the picture book reading and you only watch the match, which is maybe like 20 minutes or so, I promise you, you will love this. The other show that was uploaded was the Malaysia show, Good Life Presents Love and Peace. This one took place on Saturday, November 15th from the Geospace in Selangor, Malaysia. This video on demand was posted on Friday, December 5th. This show is about 2.5 hours, so a little bit longer, a little bit closer to your typical TJPW show. They did not announce attendance for this, although I was looking on Cage Match and I saw that they had listed that there was about 600 people there. I'm not sure where they pulled that number from, so I don't want to say that that is the official attendance. TJPW officially didn't announce anything, but roughly gives you an idea. Maybe 600 people or so were there. This one had only 8 TJPW talents make the trip, but it did also have some DDT talents, some local Malaysian wrestlers as well. It was quite the variety of folks that were on this. This show started out with an idol who apparently does competitive eating, which sounds like my kind of idol, to be honest with you. Her name was Moeazu. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Moeazu. Maybe that was her nickname. She was a petite little girl. I say little girl, she's a woman. But she was a very small woman, and always impressive when you see those videos of those tiny women eating such large quantities of food. So Moeazu, apparently an idol who can sing and dance and do competitive eating. So awesome for her. So that was really cool to see her and understand what she's all about. The MC slash the announcer for this show, I have to say, was excellent. He didn't announce himself, and I couldn't find his name anywhere in the write-up, but he was excellent. He had so much energy throughout the entire show. He was speaking in English throughout the entire show and just did a great job introducing everybody, pronouncing different names and nicknames. Everything was done correctly and accurately, and just kudos to whoever the announcer and MC was for this show. The Up Up Girls did start out with a performance for this one. They actually started on a stage, and I think this is the first time I've ever seen the Up Up Girls perform on a stage. I know they do that frequently, like outside of TJPW, but it was interesting to see them perform on a stage. The back of the stage had these big video boards, and they were actually playing some of the music videos, which I thought was kind of a cool touch. And the Up Up Girls sang 4 songs in total: Stand Up Proof of Love, Momentary Idol Memorial, Love You More, and Upper Kick. And Uda spoke English. I was shocked to hear Uda speak some English. All 4 of the girls spoke some English, but I'd never heard Uda speak English before, and she said she announced her recommended ice cream of the day in English, which I thought was such a joy. So really fun Up Up Girls kind of mini performance. The first match was a MYPW sponsored match, which is the local Malaysia promotion. Fennec Rose and Love Warrior Sawal, Love and Freedom, defeated Wonder Boy and Miles Carew, the Juicy Boys. Both of these teams were an absolute riot. They were so much fun to watch. They were dancing, and they had like a disco ball, and there's just a lot of energy in this match, but it was a lot of fun to see. The second match was a tag match between Shina Suzuki and Uda Takami, taking on Marika Kobashi and Kira Summer. Really neat to see Marika Kobashi again, mix it up with some TJPW girls. Shino and Uda looked really, really good in this match. Uda had lots of support from the Malaysian crowd, which was cool to hear. Shino did pick up the victory for her team, pinning Kira with a belly-to-belly suplex. And that was an odd finish. I remember when I saw the results for this, I was like, belly-to-belly suplex, what an odd way to end the match. I know that Shino uses the belly-to-belly suplex like in her moveset, in her repertoire, but I've never seen her use it as a finish. I'm not really sure about it being a finish, but she used it as the finish in this match, and she picked up the win for her team, so who am I to say? There was apparently a performance following this tag match from NGT48, but it was cut out of the VOD. I guess there's probably some sort of like licensing rights or IP rights or something like that, so they weren't able to show that NGT48 performance, but don't worry, because they left in the sponsor readouts, so you have 5 minutes where you can hear all about Good Life and the work that they are doing in Japan and Malaysia, and I think it was like some sort of home decorating or home renovation or something. They went on for a long time talking about these sponsors, and that's what you get instead of the NGT48 performance. The semifinal match was a 6-person tag. Sanshiro Takagi, Shinichiro Kawamatsu, and Iman Osman teamed up to defeat Chris Brooks, Shota, and Jack Alexander. One of these individuals, Jack Alexander, I believe, was a local Malaysian wrestler and kind of had like a cool dude, like a bro style character, which was kind of funny to see. And then, of course, Chris Brooks, we know, is very nonchalant. He wrestles very often in DDT and Noah, sometimes in TJPW as well. Cool to see Sanshiro Takagi get in the ring again. And then Shinichiro Kawamatsu, I wasn't too familiar with him, but apparently he's a former wrestler turned into like a politician or something like that. And he basically wrestled this match in a suit, which that's impressive in and of itself. This felt a lot like a DDT match, and I guess rightfully so. There was a lot of DDT competitors here, but if you like DDT and you like to watch DDT wrestling, this felt a lot like what you get from watching a DDT show. There was a third idol performance. This one was kept on the VOD. KLP48 performed. They are the Malaysian-based idol group. There was about 8 of these women that came in, and actually after the first song, even more of them came into the ring. So there was like 11 of these girls in the ring at one time, which was a lot. This ring was a little bit smaller than your typical TJPW ring, so 11 people in there was crazy. I've been very upfront about this on this show. I know next to nothing about Japanese idols, idol culture, idol groups. I don't know hardly a thing outside of like the Up Up Girls, and within the Up Up Girls, only the pro wrestling subunit. So I'm not one to really give expert analysis here, but I did hear them rapping at one point, which was kind of funny. Or not funny, like haha, but funny as in like cool and interesting. They sang Happy Birthday at one point. I guess that's like a part of one of their songs. And then probably my favorite, they have a song that's called Oh My Pumpkin, which is awesome. Sign me up for that. And people actually went nuts for that song, so maybe that's one of their hits. I'm not sure, but it was an interesting taste for me, someone who is very unfamiliar with J-pop and idol groups to just get a little bit of a taste of this outside of the Up Girls. And we'll talk a little bit about the OchaPro show because there was even more of a taste. This Good Life show ended with our main event, a six-woman tag. Miyu Watanabe, Yuki Arai, and Raku defeated Yuki Kamifuku, Mifu Ishida, and Malaysian wrestler Poppy Shea. Seeing Poppy Shea come to the ring, I got similar vibes to Kamiyu, very like elegant, cool girl style vibe. Honestly, everyone in this match looked really good. Miyu in particular hit her giant swing and her double body slam on both Kamiyu and Mifu at the same time. So Miyu, of course, always looks pretty good. Watanabe did pin Ishida to win this match with the teardrop in about 11 and a half minutes. At the end of this event, we actually had two multi-group performances. So there was easily like 20 to 25 people that came out on stage. I think that was KLP 48 and NGT 48 came together and sang some sort of like not a medley, but some sort of like a mashup song. And then they ended up coming into the ring to close it out, and they invited everybody. So all three idol groups, all wrestlers. There was like 30 to 40 people in and around this ring, and it kind of reminded me of like the end of a OchaPro show when they're all kind of come to the ring and they sing their song and just kind of get together and have a good time. That's what this reminded me of. And overall, I have to say, what a fun event. Like I say, I know next to nothing about idol groups save for the Up Girls, but the wrestling here was pretty solid. The crowd was like red hot for all of this. They were loud, they were cheering. There was some sort of a giveaway at one point that people were going nuts for. I experienced something new, and it was fun. I went in with an open mind. Fun show, 2.5 hours. I would give this a recommendation as well if you're into J-pop or idol shows, or if you're just a completionist, you want to see some of the TJPW girls mix it up into a different environment. This show's definitely for you. Let's go ahead and dive into our main review of the week, the OchaPro Korakuen show. This show took place on Sunday, December 7th from Korakuen Hall. This was a pay-per-view, and all in all, it was about a 3-hour show, a little bit more than 3 hours, so certainly worth the cost of the pay-per-view price. This was the collab show between the idol group Ocha Norma and the TJPW roster. Took place in Korakuen Hall, so OchaPro Korakuen, very literal name, as we see a lot with TJPW shows. We did have one absent competitor here. Remember, this was Shoko Nakajima being unavailable due to various circumstances. We will come to find out what those various circumstances were later in this show, so we'll put a pin in that for right now. What I do really want to talk about, though, was the attendance for this show. 910 people came out to this show in Korakuen Hall. And two things. I think that that's really important because as you watch this show, you'll see that the layout of Korakuen Hall, they had opposite the hard cam, there were no seats. Usually there's some bleachers that are put over there depending on how a promotion would configure Korakuen. For this one, they kept it as a stage since there were going to be so many idol performances, so there was nobody seated. Those bleachers weren't there, so there was nobody seated on that side of the hard cam, on that side of the ring. So you're talking three sides of Korakuen Hall. The main kind of the side that's mostly seats where the hard cam sits, the bleachers on the left and the right, and then a couple of floor seats around the ring. 910 people filling up three sides of Korakuen. That's an excellent number in my opinion. This is the sixth and final Korakuen show of the year for TJPW. So the second thing I want to do is just look back at some of the other Korakuen shows from this year. Of course, they kick off the year January 4th at Korakuen every year, and the 2025 version of this January 4th show drew about 1,400 people. That's fairly standard. That's usually one of the biggest draws of the year for TJPW. I don't think that this collab show was going to get anywhere near that, although you could make the argument 500 people is actually quite close to that. But the remaining shows that TJPW held throughout the year at Korakuen Hall roughly had about 550 to 750 individuals that attended. So this 910 number, again, three sides of Korakuen Hall, this is a really strong number. I want to be kind of level set here. It's likely that Ocha Norma pulled in a good chunk of these people. That could very much be the case. But that being said, it's a collab show, right? So that's the point. The point is to bring fans of Ocha Norma to come see an Ocha Norma show and experience TJPW, and vice versa. If you're a fan of TJPW and you like the Up Up Girls or kind of the song and dance, literally the song and dance that comes with it, you can maybe get exposed to Ocha Norma. That's the design of the collab show. So 910 people, really strong end to the kind of the Corkwin series of shows this year for TJPW. I'm really excited to see what they pull come January 4th, knowing that they drew 900 people here at the 2025 show. Like I mentioned, 1,400 people. I think they can surpass that number based on the talent announcements they have, the matches. Don't forget Mirai's coming in. Like there's going to be some wild stuff this coming January 4th. I wouldn't be surprised if they surpass 1,500 people. I think that would be awesome, but we'll have to wait and see for that. This show opened up with Rise Shirai giving the opening remarks and the house rules. She was actually joined by like an MC for the evening. Sawayaka Goro was his name. Not too familiar with him or his work. He was booed as he came out, which apparently is like his shtick. He just gets booed all the time. But I don't know, he seemed to win the crowd over as he went along. He made a few appearances introducing the idol performances. He was there for the quote fun game corner, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So Rise Shirai had a little bit of a partner throughout the night. We started off with the Up Up Girls performance. Again, they started on a stage here, which I believe is the second time I've ever seen the Up Up Girls sing on a stage. The production value here was awesome. It looked really cool, and we don't normally see that because with the Corkwin shows that we get, they're wrestling shows, right? So the Up Up Girls come out and they perform in the middle of the ring, and the ring is very well lit, of course. So it's lit as a wrestling show, but this was lit to be both. So the lights were really cool. The audience was hyped up for this. I just thought the production value here was top notch from the staff at Corkwin and the Wrestle Universe staff. The Up Up Girls sang 3 songs, Upper Kick, Love You More, and then they sang a cover of an Ocha Norma song, and I was trying to do some research on what the name of the song was called. Translating it, it was called Declaration of Love on a Cosmic Scale. I don't know if that is the name of the song or just the translation that kind of came about. I tried to look up some of Ocha Norma's songs and whatnot on like Apple and Spotify, but they are all in Japanese. But point is, they covered an Ocha Norma song. At the end of their performance, actually while they were singing that cover, Ocha Norma came out and joined them, singing and dancing a little bit, and then both groups together gave the start call for this show. We opened up with a tag team match. Himawari and Haru Kazushiro took on the team of Uda Takami and Arisu Endo. Uda took an absolute beating in the early going here. Lots of hair whips from Himawari. At one point, Uda tried to take the advantage and utilize her speed a little bit more, but she came to find out pretty fast that Himawari is just as quick, so didn't quite work out for Uda. She was eventually able to tag in Arisu, and we had a pretty nice square off between Himawari and Arisu. I know Himawari challenged for the IP title earlier this calendar year against Suzume, but I wouldn't hate to see her challenge again at some point. I think she'd be a great challenger for Arisu, assuming Arisu retains against Mirai, but I think Himawari getting bumped into that International Princess title contention or that title discussion, would love to see that again. Haru and Uda get some time together here. Things break down a little bit. We get all 4 of these ladies in the ring. Uda tries to go for the koala clutch, but Haru is actually able to counter it into an armbar submission, and Uda actually gives up. So we have Haru submitting Uda with what she is now calling the Izayoi, or the 16th night, at 11 minutes and 1 second. So this is a new finishing move for Haru. It was mentioned on X and within the write-up from TJPW that this is a new finishing move, the Izayoi, also known as the 16th night. Huge win for Haru. This builds some momentum as she proceeds towards January 4th and her tag team title challenge. Big win over Uda. Uda's been on a roll. I know the last few shows we talked about Uda being on a bit of a losing streak, hitting a speed bump, but Uda's still a very strong competitor, having the best year of her career. So big win for Haru here. Big notch in the belt as she marches towards January 4th. The other thing I want to note about this match is like one match into this show, I could already tell these women are bringing it today. I don't know if it was the large crowd or the fact that this was a pay-per-view show or that there were like special guests in attendance, the idols. Maybe they thought they'd just get more eyes on them, but these four women brought it and they kind of set the stage for what this show was going to be about. It just felt like everybody was in like an extra gear tonight for this one. The second contest, a six-woman tag between Ryu Mizunami, Aniki, teaming with Rakupam, taking on the team of Chika Nanase, Mihiro Kiryu, and Shino Suzuki. During the entrances, Aniki had Korakuen Hall rocking like she was her own idol group. There was lights, there was people were singing along and dancing. Like it felt like she was the third idol group that performed on this show. Her and Raku and Palm had like a little coordinated dance on the stage, which was cute to see. Palm easily so far got the most streamers. Streamers were allowed for this show, and I mean, Palm by far so far had the most streamers here. Right from the get go, Raku Palm falls asleep during the handshakes. For some reason, Mihiro and Chika and Shino all join in, and Aniki is just left on her own, and she gets frustrated, wakes everybody up. Raku is very frustrated that she woke up and accidentally hit her partner, Aniki, and kind of freaked out about it. She didn't mean to hit Aniki. That opened the door for Raku to just start this match off getting triple teamed by the opponents. Shino hit her tour guide spot in this match, introducing Mihiro Kiryu, who she was, which I thought was kind of funny. And she gave her a whip right into Mihiro, who then threw her on the mat and gave an apology on top of Raku. From what I understand, she just apologized and introduced herself. So kind of a funny bit for a new audience that may be seeing some of these characters and these wrestlers for the first time. Raku's team is able to come back into the match a little bit, help her out. We do see a joint Oyasumi Express and then actually a really nice leg submission from Raku in the ropes. And like, sure, it's in the ropes and it's like kind of cheating a little bit, but this is something new. I've never seen Raku do this leg submission. I believe it was on Shino Suzuki. She had her in like a head scissors or like a leg scissors guillotine style type of submission. Raku's been showing some new moves and some new fire in her matches. Like Raku's definitely in the last like 3 to 6 months advanced in the ring quite a bit. I know that a lot of people might not watch Raku or skip the Raku matches just because she's primarily a comedy character, but I've always said Raku is an excellent pro wrestler, and you don't have to be a 5-star mat general or whatever to be considered a good wrestler. Raku's really good at what she does. She's funny as all heck, and she's improving. What more can you ask from somebody? Aniki eventually finds her way back into the ring and just obliterates Shino Suzuki with the machine gun chops. Coming out of this spot in the corner, Shino's chest was so bruised. It was bright red. You could consider her like the red member of the Up Up Girls from now on. It was astounding how much those chops affected her. And like Shino wears gear that is mostly covering her chest. It kind of comes across her like a cross body bag, if you will, to visualize it. And so there is a little bit of like her upper left neck and chest exposed, and it was just so brutally red. I can't imagine how she was feeling after this. It looked gnarly. There was an odd spot, I just maybe didn't understand it, but Palm called one of the Ocha Norma girls to come out, and she like cast some sort of a spell or something, or did some sort of a beam. I don't really know what that was all about. Towards the end of this, we do get a really brief exchange between Mihiro and Aniki, which I thought was pretty good. I wouldn't mind more of that. And then the finish of this, we saw Chika Nanase and Aniki, and really strong showing from Chika. I thought Chika held her own against a veteran, a larger, stronger competitor. Chika looked really, really good down the stretch here. Unfortunately, didn't win the match. Rio was able to pin Chika after a spear at 9 minutes and 31 seconds. To end this one off, Ryu, Palm, and Raku just kind of danced a little bit more in the ring. Raku had her pillow. They were just dancing to Aniki's music and then exited. Overall, this was a pretty fun match. Some surprising performances baked in here from Raku, from Chika. I enjoyed this one. Following that tag match, we then got our first Ocha Norma performance of the evening. Again, I'm not going to profess to know a lot about idols and really dissect this. I am not the right person to be kind of commentating and passing opinions here, so I'll try to stick to some of the facts. There were 8 members of Ocha Norma. They didn't seem to be dressed in matching attire. They were more so in like street clothes type of attire. I'm not sure if that's normal for them. Like I say, I have such little exposure to idol groups that I thought a lot of them wear like the same type of attire, maybe the same costumes or like colorful costumes or something. It was just a little bit different than I knew about. They sang 4 songs in total. They actually got in the ring for a couple of them too, which based on the Malaysia show, and there was some YouTube videos about how difficult it is to have idols who are mostly used to the stage perform inside of a ring. There's literal barriers around you, right? You're constrained. So I thought that was quite impressive as well. But it was a nice performance from OchaNorma. Their songs seemed catchy. The crowd was really into it. They seemed to be having a good time. So it seemed like it was a fun performance if you are a fan of OchaNorma. Back to the wrestling, we had another tag team match. Ren Kanatsu and Wakana Uehara teamed together, and they took on the team of Kaya Toribami and the mysterious masked competitor Ochano Mask. I'm not sure if it is Ochano Mask or Ochanor Mask. There was some kind of disputed spellings that were put up on the screen from time to time, so I'm going to go with Ochano Mask for the sake of making it easier to say. On the entrances, Ochano Mask came out like really dancing a lot, which was unexpected, I have to admit. And then during the handshakes, she actually like collapsed onto the mat and I don't know if she was dancing again. Peculiar behavior from Ochano Mask, but she's this mysterious competitor. We don't know a lot about her, and maybe this is what she's all about. Surprisingly, there were a lot of Ocha chants to start this out. So Ochano Mask started out for her team, and Korakuen was very behind this masked competitor. She was really toying. She started off against Ren, and she was really toying with Ren. Ren just looked confused as all heck, and I don't mean that in like I don't know what's going on type of a way. Like she was playing into the bit, and she just had this look on her face that was like a mix of confusion, nervousness, a little bit of pain from the moves from Ochano Mask. Just terrific work from Ren Kanatsu. Ochano was wrestling kind of like a lucha libre style. Many times during the match, she kept calling out Ocha Libre. And she was basically just being like a trickster, being like in Mexican wrestling, they call it the Rudo style, right? The heel. Her and Kaya did try for a few double team moves, but they didn't really work out well, and they just kind of ended up with Ochano Mask like attacking Kaya or hurting Kaya in some way. So a little bit of miscommunication. This ended actually pretty abruptly. Ren had Ochano in a headlock and accidentally pulled off Ochano's mask, and this competitor under this mask looked suspiciously like Shoko Nakajima, but Ochano Mask was very quick to put her hands in front of her face, so cannot confirm or deny if it was Shoko Nakajima, but did look quite a lot like her, similar hair, similar features, but I guess there's truly no way to know for sure. What ends up happening here at the end, Ochano actually hits a few moves quite impressively while covering her face with one hand, and then manages to roll up Ren Kanatsu at 8 minutes and 32 seconds. After this was over, Kaya jumps in the ring, hastily puts the mask back on Ochano. Kudos to Chika. This is the second time I'm shouting out Chika Nanase on this podcast, but kudos to Chika. She was at ringside seconding this, and she was selling the hell out of this mask coming off. The look on her face was just utter shock and just crazed. She was like, "Oh my god, she pulled the mask off. Oh my god, is that Shoko? Oh my god, the match is..." It just kept elevating and elevating. She looked tremendous, so props again to Chika Nanase. Overall, this was harmless. I could completely understand if someone was tuning into this or maybe bought a ticket for this show expecting to see Shoko Nakajima, and then they do this switch where they have, Shoko pulled for various circumstances and Ochano Mask comes in. I could totally get someone being a little bit upset by that, but look, at the end of the day, the crowd was really into this. They were fully behind this Ochano Mask character. They were chanting, they were cheering. I thought the spot where they took the mask off was funny, impressive for Ochano Mask to continue to wrestle with like a hand over her face and hitting these moves. Like, this is a variety show. This isn't just a wrestling show. This is a variety show that has music and wrestling and games on it. Like, this was certainly variety. So take that for what it's worth. Harmless fun, really. Following this match, we had what was called the Fun Game Corner. There was no information ahead of time announced for what this fun game corner would be. And essentially, what happened, Haru Kazushiro came out, Pom Harajuku came out, and Shino Suzuki came out. And they basically played like this super souped up version of rock, paper, scissors against three members of Ochanorma. And I tried to follow along and like read some sources online. Like shout out to like Dramatic DDT, the blog, who posts quite a lot of content about all of the Cyberfight promotions. They were doing a little bit of a translation of what was happening here. So they played this game. Basically, it was rock, paper, scissors, where you would play rock, paper, scissors, and then whoever wins rock, paper, scissors would point in a certain direction, and your opponent had to look in a different direction from the one you pointed in. And if they looked in the direction that you pointed in, they lost. That's more or less what I took from this. Ochanorma won the first two rounds, and then somehow TJPW won the final round, and then won the game overall by a score of 3-2. So I don't know if the final round was like a double or nothing shot or something. I have no idea how they ended up winning. But it was fun. It was fun to watch. The competitors were really into it. The crowd was really into it. The Ochanorma girls were really into it. So it was fun to watch. Again, reminded me of like a OchaPro show where they play rock paper scissors at the end for the little chocolate square. So a little bit of fun. Again, variety show, and this was variety. In our semifinal match, and we have a lot to talk about with this one, we had a six-woman tag. Rika Tatsumi, Miyu Yamashita, and Mifu Ishida teamed up as OchaPro Sekigun, basically the supporters of Ochanorma, and they took on the team of Kira Summer, Hyper Misao, and Yuki Kamifuku, the Coffee Breakers. Apparently, the Coffee Breakers came out to music from a Japanese coffee commercial. That was what was written in the TJPW write-up, so that was kind of a fun little touch. Misao came out with this hand-drawn Starbucks bag where she was the Starbucks woman, and I thought that was so cool. I don't know if she drew that herself or if somebody drew that for her, but that was awesome looking. I think she posted about it on social media as well if you want to check it out. And then the Coffee Breakers were dressed in all black, so a little bit of different gear for each of these three ladies. Sekigun came out together. They came out to Miyu Yamashita's music, so nothing too fancy. They were carrying bottles of tea, however. Again, remember, Ochanorma, some sort of connection with tea. I believe that the Japanese word for tea is ocha. So there's some sort of connection to tea, and that's where this whole coffee versus tea storyline comes in. So the Sekigun team comes out carrying bottles of tea. This match starts off with, let me check my notes here, coffee-based offense is the best way I can describe it. Lots of shots from mugs, lots of coffee beans getting shaken around, a lot of drinking out of these mugs that had nothing in them, but I guess was supposed to have coffee in them. Just a little bit of fun, silliness. Essentially, Hyper Misao and Kamiyu and Kira were wrestling as the heels here. Miyu and Rika and Mifu were essentially just themselves. But with that said, I thought it was neat to see Kira wrestle with a little bit of like a different edge to her. She obviously has a certain presentation to her character, and this was very different than that. So cool to see Kira kind of flex her creative muscles a little bit and wrestle with a little bit of a different edge. Kamiyu was like more or less herself, but maybe like the emo version of herself would be the best way I would describe it. And then Misao was just Misao. Misao can really mold herself into any character. She's silly just as a given. At one point, she actually spits coffee in Rika's face, or something that I guess was supposed to be coffee. So, yeah, Misao, always up to her tricks. Coming down to the end of this match, it ended with Misao going for her cold spray attack, but it backfired. All three of the coffee breakers were hit with this cold spray. Rika ends up hitting a missile hip on Kira at 11 minutes and 45 seconds. This match feels like it was just ripped from the mind of Hyper Misao. I don't mean that positively or negatively. Hyper Misao is like an incredibly creative person. We've seen her hype shows. We've seen some other fun matches that she's had, and this just really felt like it came directly out of Hyper Misao's mind. The crowd for this was like a little bit quieter than I thought they might be. I don't know if maybe what they were going for, it just didn't land with the live crowd, or there was, I will say, there was in arena commentary. They had tapped like the commentary team into the arena because they had one of the Ochanorma girls on commentary. So maybe the crowd was just listening instead of reacting. That could be a possibility. Or maybe they were just tired, coming off of the Fun Game Corner, the Ocha Norma performances. This show has been like loaded up to this point, so a little bit quieter than I would have thought, but overall this was really creative. It was fun. The wrestling was solid, so really no complaints. We do have some news to hit on after this match. The Coffee Breakers were given tea from the OchaPro support, the Ocha Norma supporters. They all agreed to bury the hatchet. They agreed that tea and coffee are equally as good, and yada yada. Everybody went home happy. Everybody left the ring except for Rika Tatsumi, who called out Natsume Nakayama, who was the Ocha Norma girl sitting at the announcing booth for this match. If we remember in the lead up to this, when Rika Tatsumi won the DDT Ironman title, she made her goal to make it to this OchaPro show and gift the belt to her favorite Ocha Norma singer, her Oshi, if you will, Natsume Nakayama. So she calls Nakayama into the ring to give her this Ironman belt as a present. She says, "We're going to make this super easy. I admire you. You are my Oshi. I'm going to lie down. You can pin me, and then you win the belt, and this would be a great honor to give you this belt." This girl wanted like nothing to do with this. She did not want this belt. She did not want this gift. She was trying to like vehemently say, no, 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 it's okay. You can keep it. I appreciate the love. It's okay. We know that Rika is stubborn and she's not going to take no for an answer. Rika lies down. She closes her eyes, and you could see Natsume is kind of thinking about what to do, and she hesitates just for a brief second. And in that brief second of time, ever the opportunist, Mihiro Kiryu jumps into the ring, covers Rika, and absolutely steals this pinfall to become the 1,787th Ironman Heavy Metalweight Champion. Naturally, when Rika opens her eyes, she is furious. She literally jumps all over Mihiro, chokes her to the ground, and just insists that Natsume pins her. And again, Natsume wants nothing to do with this. She's like, I really don't want this belt. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. No, she's like on her hands and knees, throwing up an X, like, no, 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 no. Rika will not take no for an answer, literally drags her over, sits her down on top of Mihiro, and Natsume Nakayama becomes the 1,788th Ironman Heavy Metalweight Champion. And the belt on this woman was so large, she wrapped it around her waist and like had to walk out holding it because it was just going to slide all the way down to her feet if she let go of it. So quite a segment and quite a fun segment. I think it really woke up the crowd after the match. Again, don't want to take anything away from the match. The match was just fine, but this really woke up the crowd towards the end. With all that said, though, there was still some additional DDT Ironman heavy metalweight belt shenanigans. Backstage, Mihiro and Shino Suzuki, for some reason, was with her. The two of them approached Natsume, who was backstage at Korakuen, and they basically tried to convince her to give up the Ironman title. Mihiro was like, look, you're an idol performer. You're not a professional wrestler. You don't want this belt. People are going to be coming for you at all times. It's going to be intense. It's going to be scary. It's going to be shocking. Like, you don't want this. And Natsume actually agreed with her. She was like, you know what? You're right. I'm not a professional wrestler. I'm an idol performer, and I don't want this belt. What do I have to do? Mihiro says it's so easy. You just have to basically give the belt up to me. And all you have to do is hold out the belt and say, I give up. I give up this belt. Of course, Fumarin was right there. Fumarin is always present for these scenarios. For some reason, Fumarin is attached to this Iron Man title like a hawk. She's always around this belt. Shino, I don't know why Shino was there, but Shino was like trying to convince Mihiro not to do this. So I don't know what the connection with Shino was. But essentially, she says all you have to do is hand over the belt and you say, I give up. So Natsume takes the belt off of her shoulder and she says, okay, I give up. What Mihiro did not see in the other hand of Natsume was a bottle of tea. Fumarin, of course, crafty Fumarin, sees the belt, sees the tea, and she says, oh, Natsume gave up to the iced tea. Awards the DDT Ironman Heavy Metalweight Championship to the bottle of tea. So the bottle of tea becomes the 1,789th champion. Mihiro was flabbergasted at what went down. Shino, being the smart one, grabs the bottle of tea, runs out of the backstage area. She is followed by Fumarin, who is followed by Mihiro. Natsume just kind of sits there and is like, thank God this is over. Just gave a cute smile, a little wry smile to the camera. Apparently, Shino ran all the way to KFC Hall, which is just right nearby where they were doing the autograph signing after the show, where she tried to pin the bottle of tea, but Mahiro was right there to break that up. She attacked Shino, kneeled on her back in the apology style, and then proceeded to drink the bottle of tea. And she had a really tough time getting this bottle of tea down. This is the second time Mahiro has gone up against a bottle of liquid in her DDT Ironman Heavy Metalweight Championship chase. She was able to pull it off this time. She drank the entirety of the bottle of tea, and Fumarin then checked out the bottle, saw that it was completely empty, and awarded the DDT Ironman title back to its rightful owner, Mahiro Kiryu, who is the 1790th champion. Crazy stuff. If you thought that this DDT Ironman like side quest business was only going to last for like a month or so, this has been going on now for like a solid, I don't know, 4 to 5 months. And personally, I'm here for it. I love it. I think it is a great thing for Mahiro to do. This is like perfect for her character. It's perfect for Rika. It's a lot of fun to see people just kind of jump in, like, say, Raku or Palm, or when they have shows like this collaboration or whatever it is. This is just a blast. This belt fits TJPW so perfectly. I know it's a DDT belt, but they are all in the same family. They're sister brother company, whatever you want to call it. I hope that this belt sticks around for, quite frankly, a long time. It's an interesting case study to kind of look at. TJPW only has 3 championships, right? And they're all pretty strong championships. The Princess of Princess, the International Princess, and then the tag titles. There's really no belt for someone lower down the card. Like, I'm just pulling an example from Stardom. There's like a high speed belt, right? Or even Marigold has, I think they call it a Superfly belt. Stardom, I think, has a future of Stardom belt as well. So there's really no like mid card belt, lower card belt for TJPW, and this just fits that gap so nicely. The comedy is like a perfect mesh with what TJPW does, and they've just been very creative. I don't know who is the one designing this, if it's Mahiro, if it's Fumarin, if it's Koda, if it's Takagi, whoever it is, maybe it's all of them, really doing a bang up job. This is entertaining as all heck, and I hope it continues for a long time. Prior to the main event, we did get a second Ocha Norma performance. They sang 5 songs this time. The third one, I don't know the name of it, but the crowd was like really into it. The crowd was on their feet almost the entire show, but for this song, they were like dancing, like moving all around. It seemed like there was some sort of coordinated dance that went with this, but the crowd was like all for this. Towards the end of this performance, one of the members remained in the ring, and they were the ring announcer for the main event. And in our main event of the evening, we had a 6-woman tag team match. Yuki Aino, Miyu Watanabe, and Toga took on the team of Yuki Arai, Mizuki, and Suzume. Now, this was our third Princess of Princess preview match. Miyu is up 2-0 over Suzume, although I will caveat that neither has pinned each other, and actually in one of those falls, neither of them were even involved, so it's a soft 2-0 for Miyu. Mentioning the entrances, Yuki Arai, I think, was competing with Palm for the most streamers at this show, which I guess kind of makes sense because Arai is a former idol, and so maybe the audience here was like mostly idol fans or were very familiar with her. But from my estimation, Arai got the most streamers on this event, followed up with Palm. Everybody got a good amount, but if I had to pick people that seemed to get the most, I would say Arai and Palm. Miyu and Suzume start this match out. Suzume's team does gain the really early advantage. There's this really cool like stereo planchas to the outside from Suzume and Mizuki. It looked really, really nice how they pulled that off. Truly, this match had a lot of really good pairings in it. We saw Miyu and Arai. We saw Aino and Arai. We saw Aino and Mizuki. We saw Mizuki and Miyu, which was flashing me back to last year's January 4th show, to Wrestle Princess 6. Really a loaded up match, and I single out Toga. I don't mention Toga there, but Toga looked really great too throughout this whole match. We get a double body slam and a double giant swing from Miyu, and then she actually went and flexed to the crowd. I love it. We hardly ever see that like brazenness, that brashness from Miyu, and I thought that was so cool to just see that fire in her. We net out with Suzume and Miyu through all of this craziness. Suzume hits a ring a bell. She goes for a second ring a bell, but it is blocked. Miyu hits like a really clubbing laser beam right to her back and tags in Toga. Of course, this is a 6-woman tag match, so you know what happens. Things break down. We get a full Nelson Buster from Arai. We get an avalanche slam from Miyu. We actually get a whirling candy from Mizuki as well. We haven't seen the whirling candy in probably months at this point, but it makes sense, kind of this collab show. It makes sense to have her pull out that whirling candy. And then we end with Suzume pinning Toga after hitting a ring a bell at 16 minutes and 37 seconds. A nice long main event, and Suzume picks up the win for her team, so she pulls up her record in the previews a little bit, 2-1, still in favor of Miyu, but Suzume is on the board. After this match, Suzume encourages everybody to attend the January 4th show. Everybody who was a part of this show, all of the wrestlers, all of the idols come out, and then we close the show with Miyu Watanabe and Ironman Heavy Middleweight Champion at the time, Natsume Nakayama. They close the show with Miyu's standard "Do you love TJPW?" She did include Ocha Norma in there as well, and everybody shouts "I love it." And really nice show overall. There were a few backstage comments. I won't go into details because it's mostly just people talking about how much they enjoyed the show and how they want to do another one, and nothing really of substance. But overall, a really, really good show. Truly a variety show with the amount of music and wrestling and the games that we saw. I don't think there was a bad match at all. Obviously, it's probably like 50-50 in terms of the amount of wrestling versus the amount of idol performances. So if you don't like J-pop or you're not a fan of idol performances, you might want to skip over some of those parts. But the wrestling here was really good. The match of the night for me is this main event 6-woman tag. This match between Suzume and Watanabe is really shaping up to be great, and the preview matches for it, we've seen 3 of them so far. All of them have been really, really good. And I know I sound like a little bit of a broken record because I was talking about that in the lead up to Miyu Watanabe and Yuki Aino as well, but truly these matches are coming together really well. I'm sure we still have at least 1 or 2 more of these previews to come. There are 2 shows coming up at the end of the year that we'll see likely another preview match on. This January 4th show, I truly can't talk about it enough, is going to be awesome. These are included. This show is every year is included with your Wrestle Universe subscription. It is not a pay-per-view show. If you have Wrestle Universe, encourage your friends to tune in. This match is going to be, or this event is going to be tremendous. If you are heading to Japan for that like really popular Wrestle Kingdom week, Wrestle Queendom week, make a point to go to this show. It's in the afternoon. You are not going to miss out on Wrestle Kingdom that same day. This show takes place earlier in the day. It is a short walk over to the Tokyo Dome. You can catch both shows. The way that TJPW is loading this up, it is truly a can't miss show. And of course, you're going to be out there and say, well, you're the TJPW guy. You're talking about this is going to be a great show regardless of promotions. I would highly encourage everybody to check this one out. Kind of looking ahead a little bit as I get myself like really excited and worked up there. Kind of looking ahead, we do have the TJPW Live in Bangkok show, which we'll preview in a moment. That will be pay-per-view. And then following that show, there is a long stretch basically from the end of December through the end of January where all of these shows will be on Wrestle Universe and they will be live streamed. So that will include the Merry Christmas show on the 21st, the year-end party show, which I believe is on like the 27th, somewhere in there, maybe give or take a day or two, the January 4th show, the January 10th show, the New Year's show, the New Year party, and then we segue like almost immediately into the Tag League, and all of those are going to be live streamed as well. So lots of live content upcoming from TJPW. Love that we're back on a live schedule. Speaking of the Bangkok show, let's run through that one pretty quickly here in our preview of the week. This will be a 5-match card taking place this coming Saturday, the 13th of December, from the Circus Studio in Bangkok, Thailand. Again, this is a pay-per-view. It'll cost about 2,500 yen, so a little bit cheaper than the Ocha Norma show. In US dollars, it's only about $16, so it's pretty palatable cost. The downside here, though, is that this will be taking place live, and I believe it's at like evening time in Thailand, so we're looking at like 6 a.m. Eastern time, 3 a.m. Pacific, so either a late night, early morning, or if you buy the pay-per-view, you get the viewing rights for like a month at a time, so easily just watch it the next day. But if you wanted to watch it live, it's going to be a night one. 12 total talents from TJPW will be here, and as I mentioned, 5 matches. We'll run through these. I believe this will be the match order. We'll have a singles match between Yukikami Fuku taking on Uda Takami. These two have actually met once before, and Kamiyu won that match, so interesting to see a one-on-one here, Kamiyu up 1-0 in a head-to-head record. I'm really looking forward to this. I think this is going to be a really neat clash of size between Kamiyu and Uda Takami. Ultimately, I'm going to go with Kamiyu, though, her being the tag champion. I'd be surprised if she loses to Uda. We'll then see a tag team match. Daisy Monkey will come together for the first time in quite a while to take on Shino Suzuki and Yuki Arai. I'm going to go with Daisy Monkey. I think with Arisu being the IP champion, Suzume having the upcoming title defense against, or title challenge, I should say, against Miyu, Daisy Monkey feels like the winners in this one. And then we'll have 3 title matches. The IWA Japan setup tag titles will be on the line. The current champions Miyu Yamashita and Kaya Toribami will take on Raku and Palm Harajuku. This will be the V1 defense. The duo of Miyu and Kaya have held these belts only for about a month, 28 days at the time of this recording. Naturally, this is Palm and Raku's first chance at this championship. I think this will be fun. You know, it's got Palm in it, it's got Raku in it. Miyu always plays off their antics quite well. I do think that Miyu and Kaya will retain their tag team championships, though. Surprisingly, we'll see an MLW featherweight title defense. Shoko Nakajima will defend against Alexis Lee. This will be V6 for Shoko Nakajima. She's held this MLW belt for 251 days at the time of the recording. Alexis's first shot at this MLW title, although I will say that she has challenged for the Princess Tag Team titles before, so that's of note. And she actually challenged Kyoraku Kiyomi, so she has fought against a title match against Shoko Nakajima once before. This is the first time where these ladies are meeting in a singles contest, however. Quite frankly, I think this has match of the night potential. Alexis Lee has come in and out of TJPW a couple of times. She typically wrestles out of Singapore. She's a pretty good competitor. She has a great look to her with the face paint and all. Obviously, we know Shoko Nakajima is tremendous as well. So I do think that this has the possibility to be match of the night. I think Shoko retains the belt, though, but keep an eye on this one. And then in our main event, the Princess of Princess title will be on the line. Miyu Watanabe will be defending for the 3rd time against her challenger, Matcha. Miyu has been the champion for 83 days. This is Matcha's first shot at this Princess of Princess title, although as I mentioned, she did team with Alexis Lee for a Princess Tag Team title shot earlier in the year. This is the first time meeting between these two women in a singles contest. No preview tags, of course. They're previewing a lot for the Suzume match coming up on January 4th, which honestly probably tells you how this one is going to go, considering I do think it's going to be a solid match. Matcha is another competitor that's come in and out of TJPW a little bit and always has a pretty good showing. So I think this will be solid. I will pick Miyu to retain and then head on to Korakuen Hall on January 4th to take on Suzume. The last thing that I will note for this show is that earlier in the day, there's going to be a Setup Thailand show. That's the local promotion. They have about like a 1-hour block in the afternoon where a lot of their competitors will be fighting. And then in between that setup show and the TJPW show, there's like talk events, there's like a little fair with like food and merch and whatnot. And then just recently, TJPW announced they're going to be holding a contract signing in that block between the shows for that Princess of Princess title match. So Matcha and Miyu will come together and sign the contracts. And as we know, there's always some physicality involved and some strong words. So I don't know if that's going to be shown anywhere or not. Maybe it'll be included in well, I guess this will be pay-per-view, so there won't be any sort of VOD or anything like that, but maybe they'll post it on X or YouTube or something. I will round us out today with a brief look into some graduates. There hasn't been too much news on the graduate side of things this week, so we'll quickly whip around some just notable matches that took place. Yuka Sakazaki wrestled on the Thursday, December 4th edition of Ring of Honor Honor Club, where she was in the semifinals for that Ring of Honor Women's Pure Title Tournament. She did lose in that semifinal match, unfortunately. She lost to Billy Starks. Yuka made it a little bit farther than I thought. She won her match against Serena Deeb, and Serena Deeb was one of those competitors that kind of fits the style of this belt. So it was an interesting little side quest for Yuka Sakazaki. I imagine she will quite soon get on a plane, head back over to Japan for the holidays, and then the new year, and then of course she will be on that January 4th show. I also want to mention Sayuri Namba. Sayuri Namba had, not wrestling, of course, but Sayuri Namba has been hosting a few live streams on her YouTube channel. Talked a little bit about her YouTube channel in the past. She posts some fun videos, some fun shorts on her YouTube of kind of like vlog style, her experiences as she moves to Vancouver and just kind of learning the culture, learning the customs, going to Tim Hortons, that kind of thing. But she's recently been hosting a few YouTube live streams to practice her English. She was talking on social media about wanting to get a little bit better with her English, so she is hosting these live streams where she is speaking only in English. If you'd like to chat with Sayuri a little bit, help her learn English a little bit better, and just I mean, her English is already amazing, but to help her kind of fine tune her English and learn some new things, feel free to hop on over to her YouTube streams. She usually tweets out or sends like an Instagram comment or something before going live. Want to touch on Mina Shirakawa briefly. On the Wednesday, December 10th edition of Dynamite, so just a couple of days ago, she was wrestling in the finals for the AEW Women's World Tag Team titles. If you're a big fan of AEW, you haven't watched that show, hit the skip button because I will talk about what happens in this match. So here is your warning. Skip ahead 20-30 seconds if you don't want to know who won that match. Mina and Toni Storm, her tag team partner, the Timeless Love Bombs, unfortunately lost in the finals of this tag team title tournament to the Babes of Wrath, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale. Color me surprised. I thought that these two were kind of ticketed for these titles. But at the same time, I appreciate a good swerve. And I don't mean that in like the, it's a swerve, bro, kind of way. I mean that in like, here's another team equally as deserving in the Babes of Wrath, equally as over with the crowd, who they decided to put the belts on. Great for them. And I think it helps those two women more than it would help someone like Toni Storm, who was already like this super duper megastar. So interesting ending, surprise ending, but in kind of a positive way. And then the last individual I want to touch on is Yu. Yu had another defense of her Sendai Girls tag titles on the December 6th show from Sendai Girls. I don't think there was a name to it. I think they just called it Sendai Girls. Her and her tag team partner, Chihiro Hashimoto, Team 200 kg, took on Red Energy, who is Miyuki Takase, and Mika Iwata. And Yu and Chihiro successfully defended their belts once again. We are getting very close to Yu's retirement from TJPW, from professional wrestling as a whole. I believe it is on like the 27th, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. I forget the exact day, but it is this month, December. It is upcoming in just a week or two. I'm looking forward to that. It was great to see Yu come back into TJPW for one show, just to kind of end her career. She's been doing the rounds, wrestling a lot of different people. I've always enjoyed Yu's performances. She's a lot of fun. I was lucky enough to see Yu wrestle live in the States, although it was with Sukeban, so it wasn't necessarily Yu, it was her Sukeban character, but at the same time, still cool to have said I can see Yu, cross her off the list of Joshis in person. But Yu, really cool career. We'll of course talk about her retirement ceremony once it happens, but all the best to Yu as she rides off into the sunset. And that's about it for the abbreviated corner here for the graduates. Not too much in the news on the graduate side this week. And that will bring us to the end of this week's episode. Grab your cold spray and your ice packs. On next week's episode, we'll review the Bangkok show. We'll also preview Sei no Merry Christmas. It's already here. We might even have a full card for the January 4th show by then too, so keep your fingers crossed. I also want to give one more shout out to Moka Miyamoto. All the best to Moka in her future endeavors outside of wrestling. I hope that she remains healthy and well. Best of luck to Moka. I hope you enjoyed the show today. If you did, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any future episodes. You can follow us at Tokyo Joshi Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and X. If you want to email the show, tokyojoshipod@gmail.com. But above all else, remember to keep your hearts burning, stay magical, my friends, and we'll see you next week on the Tokyo Joshi Pod.